Hi there, welcome to the Half a Bubble Out podcast. Today we're going to talk about gratitude. You know, it's that time of season, but any time of year, gratitude is actually a lever in your business that you can use anytime you need to. It's powerful, there's tons of research, and you're going to like it. By the way, we're really thankful for you today. So let's jump in and talk more about it.
So it's the season of Thanksgiving.
It is.
And you know how much I love to talk about gratitude. And it would be remiss if we didn't talk about gratitude and the power of gratitude for owning a business. Because gratitude isn't just this nice to have thing. It's actually a strategic tool that can help you as a business owner to thrive and can help your team thrive also if you're living and fostering in kind of this culture of gratitude. So
it can help me do that.
It can help you do that.
That's amazing. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Okay, well, let's talk about different aspects of how gratitude impacts businesses and everything else in this season. And realizing that even though we're talking about it in this season, this is something that is true year round. And people forget. We were talking recently with some leaders about how to deal with this challenge of losing sight of different things and different aspects that are critical in their personal life and development life and their professional life.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about was just having a discipline of gratitude and thankfulness.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to go very far in your journey, even in faith, and realize that gratitude is a key thing that we're commanded to do. And I believe that it's not a coincidence because the attitude and the mindset of having gratitude shifts how you face the world on every single level. So it affects us mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all the different ways.
All the different pieces and parts.
So let's talk about just kind of 5 really simple ways to begin to think about why developing a discipline of gratitude is a wise decision for you as a business leader.
Okay.
Because everything that we do as a business leader takes time and energy and effort. And developing this kind of a discipline is no different.
So the first one is gratitude boosts mental health and resilience. This whole idea of our mental health makes sense. Resilience, we've talked about on the podcast before. But when you bring them together, it's this not just physical resilience, but a mental, emotional resilience. Really quick, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a great question. So research, and there's tons of research out there. You can't just reference one thing. There's a 2021 study in personality and individual differences that talks about the fact that gratitude reduces stress, it reduces anxiety, and it reduces depression. So you take those 3 things, anxiety, stress, and depression, and you think about how those contribute to burnout if you're wrestling with those as a leader. So if you're living in a place of gratitude and you're reducing and you're actually reducing those factors in your life, then it can help you kind of be resilient against burnout. It can help build your capacity to face whatever's coming your way. And there's a lot coming your way as a business leader, but it can help you build that resilience because it's turning your attention away from just the problems to a different place.
Well, one of the problems that we're trying to figure out more and more how to solve with leaders, with all of us, is how do we deal with the stress that's in our lives? That's been for a long time. But what we're talking about a lot, and we've talked about a lot on this podcast, is VUCA. Because we've got this, for those who haven't heard it, it's an acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And as those things increase, our stress increases. As those things increase, the stress of our team, any of our employees, even our customers, it's all increasing. So how do we build in buffers? How do we build in resilience so that, like taking a car that in the old days didn't have shock absorbers to putting on shock absorbers so that the bumps down the road don't nearly kill you
or your car, your vehicle,
and impact you too much. So now you're moving along going, this idea of gratitude is really a significant strategy.
Absolutely.
In that idea of how do you prepare you and your team for what's going on in the world.
Well, and biblically, I mean, 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, give thanks in all circumstances. And I don't know about you, but that is a hard one. Like no matter what is coming your way, learn to give thanks. And part of what I think is involved in that is that gratitude, it just pulls us back.
Yeah.
It gives us perspective, right? to think about not just the challenge we may be having, but to pull back on a regular basis and focus on what is positive, what is good.
Yeah.
And there's always something to be thankful for. Always.
So in that mental health and resilience, it also gives us an ability to get out of the tunnel vision we can get stuck in when we're looking at the problems and the stress or the pressures that are screaming in at us. Okay, gratitude strengthens relationships. Number 2.
Yeah, so you highlighted this a second ago, but the way that we interact with our team members, the way that we just approach our daily work is this gratitude piece is super significant. So we know from our own world, as well as from research, that when you are grateful to your employees at any level, when you thank them for specific ways that they have contributed to the company, helped a client, managed a vendor, whatever it is that moves your values and your desired way your company works forward, the more that you're able to express specific gratitude to them, the more they feel valued and appreciated. And it just strengthens that relationship. So to be able to do that among employees and each other and stuff is a really big deal.
Yeah. I mean, people you're working with on a regular basis, obviously people in your family, friends, all those different folks. When we get really stressed and focused, we also usually stop looking for or slow down looking for the good stuff. So getting into a discipline, what we call a discipline, because you got to stop, take control of your thoughts and go, I'm going to choose to be thankful for something here. I don't know what it is.
I'm going to find it.
Sometimes it's an opportunity. Sometimes it's just attributes and things that you've just ignored. Sometimes it's the opportunity to grow because unless you were given the pressure or the tension, unless you're tested, you're never going to know what you learned, what you've dealt with. You're never going to find out where the gaps are in your skills, your abilities. So a lot of times, even the stresses and everything else, that's why we want to give tests. It's like when you're learning something, if somebody says, well, I'll teach you, but I'm never going to test you. I'm never going to, well, that just sucks because people, I know I do. I'm going, okay, all right, I've learned a little bit of this. If I can do this, okay, now let me see if I've got it. Can you test me? Time me. Have I integrated this? Have I memorized this? I want to be tested. Well, there's a lot of natural tests that happen in the world too. And scripture is really clear on that too, that these stresses, these challenges in life are actually to test us, to see where we are in our process and of growing and our character and everything else. And it's there to evaluate what you're doing well and what you're missing and what you need to fill in.
Yeah. Well, and we're a little off the topic of relationships, but I can't help but interject here. We have this kind of running joke in our family. There's this passage in James chapter 1 that talks about count it all joy when you encounter trials.
Right. I'm aware of that joke.
You're aware of that. You're aware of this. And a pastor we used to listen to would say, when a difficulty comes into your life, when a challenge comes into your life, your response should be, woohoo, I've got a trial. You should be like calling your friend and going, I've got a trial. And they should be like, I'm so jealous. What are you going to learn? It's going to be amazing. So we have learned over the years, not always successfully, but as a family, even our daughter will be like, she'll just come back at us with that, like, hey, it's a trial. Yay. What are we going to learn? And sometimes we're doing that a little sarcastically because nobody really loves that. But there is that sense in which being grateful for what it is that you're having the opportunity to solve and learn is a really big deal because it helps you, again, know, hey, this is not the end of the story. We're going to get through this. And it's just it's an amazing mind shift to choose gratitude. So,
all right. Gratitude fuels productivity and decision-making. What do you mean? What do we mean by that?
So running a business, right? VUCA, all the things we've kind of chatted about already a little, it just involves some uncertainty. It's just not always easy. And when you are able to cultivate a discipline of gratitude, gratitude keeps you thinking forward. It keeps you envisioning the future and possibilities as opposed to just getting stuck. So it's just this, again, it's a perspective shift. when we are grateful and when we begin to shift to the future with an attitude of hope and positivity, neuroscience tells us that releases dopamine and serotonin, and all the pleasure centers of the brain are stimulated, which helps you then be more creative in how you think and be more solution oriented and not just problem oriented.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that whole concept, when we're talking about that, of fuels productivity decision making, we know that people who are engaged, one of the things is they're being recognized. So when we talk about management and structures of management, we talk about 4 key things. You need to be clear about what you're talking about. What's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? Is it a clear goal? Have we communicated well to those people? Is there an accountability being built? And is there trust being built in the midst of that? If you're doing those 4 pillars, then the 5th thing is public recognition.
Yep.
Research has shown, and I think a lot of people's experience is when people are told they're doing well, it actually is a multiplier of everything. It's a multiplier of their efficiency, their productivity, their revenue that each employee generates. And they actually even stick around in companies longer so that you don't lose all of that company capital that's in their heads. And you don't have to restart and spend. So you get this aspect of how gratitude is grateful. Gratitude is grateful.
Gratitude is so grateful.
Gratitude is great in the business. And then the multiplier of just how, if it makes other people feel that way, how is it processing us? And again, it continues to take us out of that deep funnel that's just focusing on us and our problems and steps into that. So it strengthens those relationships with others. Because I don't know anybody who doesn't genuinely like an authentic, well-placed compliment.
Yes.
There are some people who struggle greatly with receiving compliments or receiving what comes out of gratitude. I appreciate you for this. It makes some people very uncomfortable. But what you can do if you're trying is we can figure out ways to speak to those people in a way that they can hear. Sometimes we have to be really creative. And sometimes you have to look at somebody and just say, shut up and take the compliment.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think, we all know experientially what it's like to receive a well-placed compliment. I mean, even just yesterday, I was just kind of in a place. I was just having a hard time kind of beating my head against the wall, trying to get through a project. And got an email from a friend who I'm doing a workshop for in December. And it was just a forward of the email that she sent out to her people about the workshop. And she just had this simple sentence in it that just said something about the fact that I was winsome and brilliant and that there's nobody she would rather spend an hour with doing almost anything than me. And it was like, it just, talk about dopamine. I'm like, I suddenly feel so much better.
You're winsome.
I'm winsome. I don't get called winsome very often. It's not a word I hear very often, but it was so encouraging. And just to have her essentially express her gratitude for our relationship to other people. I don't even know who these people are going to be.
Yeah.
But it was really powerful. So it shifts kind of everything.
So gratitude enhances, we've talked about mental, physical, spiritual well-being. We've talked about those in different aspects. Is there anything else we can add in that aspect as we're talking about it?
Well, physically, I think the idea that when you are living in a place of gratitude, research will show you sleep better, right? So physically.
Which is weird.
It is weird.
Yeah.
It is weird. But part of it is because it's reducing anxiety, right? So what is it that keeps people laying awake at night? It's the stuff that they're trying to solve and the problems and all the restlessness and all of that. So I think the more that we are shifting and rewiring, because that's one of the amazing things about the human brain, right? You create a discipline of something like gratitude, it actually begins to rewire your neural pathways. Like that is amazing. But that's how we're designed. And so the more that we live into that, then, we can actually sleep at night. Right? So one of the verses I love is somewhere in the Psalms says, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety." You alone. Nothing else, not my circumstances, not my cash flow, nothing else happening in the world. You alone help me sleep in safety. So it's just that gratitude place rewires how we think. And so I think physically, you sleep better, you're less anxious. All of the symptoms of anxiety are so difficult. For any of you who struggle with it, I know I've struggled with it. It is a hard journey. And the more that I have oriented toward gratitude and really disciplined myself to think about the things that are good and positive, the more that I have experienced that physical just reality of things just are better.
Yeah.
So
Number 5, gratitude fosters a growth mindset. Mindset is a very powerful thing, and it's a very generic, fuzzy word. We've talked about it recently, and the more I've thought about it, the more I realize that it goes with the attitudes and beliefs we have about everything. The structure in which we understand stuff, it's amazing how people can have all the same facts and come up with completely different conclusions. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes the diversity is fantastic because there's a bunch of different solutions, shows creativity and accomplishes the task. Sometimes it's a math equation and a bunch of different solutions. There's only one correct answer. And I don't care how creative you want to be or anything else, it doesn't help with that. So you've got this mindset of understanding the structure and organization so you can ultimately come to a place where you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish, the ultimate goals. This whole idea of gratitude fosters a growth mindset. There was a book called The Growth Mindset, and I forget her name. She was a professor at Stanford University. I think she's retired now. She wrote an amazing work. It's amazing how many people quote her work. And it's this idea of how an actual growth mindset will help us actually see opportunities that are there that are hiding when you don't have a growth mindset. A growth mindset allows you to find the benefits of things you have to leverage them, opportunities, tools. All of a sudden you've got all this stuff around you, and now you can take advantage of it. And it's funny how losing the growth mindset actually just it's like it turns off, it flips switches in your brain to where you're not allowed to see stuff. It cloaks all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And so moving into a growth mindset, I can grow. I like to grow. I don't mind challenges. All of a sudden the switches get flipped back on again.
Right.
And the benefits can be huge.
Well, yeah. And it's, you move from the scarcity fear. we're never going to make it. If it is a good day, which I really doubt. All those places that we struggle when we're not in that place. And gratitude is one of the things that helps shift us back to that, to where we're looking at there is actually a potential for abundance.
Yeah.
There's opportunities, there's creative solutions, and we don't have to come up with them all by ourselves. Like, we have community, and we have this creative genius who called the Holy Spirit. He's amazing. He knows more than every single book's ever been written. So knowing that we're not in it alone, and there are so many good gifts that are given, and that, we're created to live into good gifts. So it's a big, big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 5 things that we talked about were: gratitude boosts mental health and resilience. Number 2, gratitude strengthens relationships. Number 3, gratitude fuels productivity and decision-making. Number 4, gratitude enhances our mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. And number 5, gratitude fosters a growth mindset.
Yeah. So if I was to say to you, okay, Michael, I want you to start fostering a discipline of gratitude, what would you recommend I do?
Well, the first thing is, every time you get up in the morning, look for something you can be thankful for.
Okay.
The first thing you do in the day, what can you be thankful for? Second, look at the people around you. I think it starts at home. Then you start going, what can I be thankful for in the people in my household? Spouses, kids. Maybe you live with your parents. Maybe your senior parents have moved back in with you and you're helping care for them or something like that. On the way to work, or on the way to wherever you do your work and everything else.
From your living room to your back office.
Your back office.
That little stroll.
But a lot of us, we have to actually go somewhere.
Yep.
Be thinking about the environment you're in. the city you're in, the community you're in. What are the things you can be thankful for? And give yourself margin in the midst of it. There are things that stop gratitude, and those things are the things of VUCA and rushing and hurrying. If I've always been a person who left to the last minute. I always put as much as in I can.
We call you a time optimist.
A time optimist. But even going, yeah, I want to do this. And we've struggled as a family to ever show up anywhere on time.
It is true. It is true.
So there's a stress that gets thrown in because we wait to the last minute and we don't give ourselves any margins in it. Some people just do it naturally. And it's a discipline for us. Yeah. We actually have to increase it, because when you give yourself an extra 5-10 minutes, then you have the ability to not focus on the stress of I'm late or get out of my way or anything like that. And what I'm talking about is creating more space for gratitude to happen. So you can be intentional. So you don't have to think about 3 other things at the moment. Yeah. And at work, you absolutely 100% want to think about 2 different groups of people that you're being thankful for on a daily basis. All of your employees, if you're a good leader, you're walking around looking for things that you can call out one-on-one and in a group. And you might be awkward at it in the beginning, but you learn to be better at it and going, you did this great. I appreciate this. This was exactly what I wanted. I really like how you're continuing this pattern, and being grateful and articulating that to folks. And then I would say that thank you notes to customers. If we have been talking about getting back into the habit again, right? If we can get back into that habit as leaders of making sure we're thanking a customer or thanking an old customer.
Yeah. Or a vendor or,
and being able to think about that. Those are the places, the first thing in the morning, the people in your home, the environment you find yourself in, the people at work and your customers. Those 5 groups on a daily basis. If you could just kind of have how can I find one person a day in each one of those groups?
Yeah. Well, and I would say, just because this is the way that I work, I think developing a new discipline is never a simple thing, and I need reminders.
Yep.
So this may or may not work for you, but one of the things that was helpful for me when I was developing this discipline is I started a gratitude journal. And I literally just had it with me, and I wrote down just 1 or 2 or 3 things, right? Something you could keep on your desk.
Yeah.
And it's sitting there looking at you like, you need to put something in me today because I need to be reminded that this is something that I'm trying to develop and trying to build and trying to focus on. So those tangible physical places of actually writing down and recording what it is you're grateful for, which then also lets you go back and read those, which is a great tool.
Yes. So great. I think one of the things that's the enemy often of gratitude is neglect. And nobody likes to be neglected. And when you aren't thankful for different things, a neglect creeps in and it can sour everything. And gratitude is a great antidote.
Yes, we don't want the people around us to feel unappreciated.
So in a season of gratitude and a discipline that's good for business all year round, I appreciate you and I thank you for doing all of this today.
Well, and I thank you.